What's up, everybody? Welcome to CFP Talks. I'm Joe Nissom. As always, with me is Mr. David Fuchs. David,
Yeah.
let's chat some CFP.
What else what else do we talk
I mean,
about?
we could talk about a lot of stuff. I got a lot of ideas, right? We could chat about a lot of stuff. Fashion, politics.
Yeah.
No, not politics. Definitely not politics. Let's talk a little bit about long questions on the exam.
Yeah.
I feel like this is where everybody walks out of the test and goes, "Oh my God, I was not ready for the length of that question."
No, and this is where you come out and your head's spinning and you
Mm,
have headaches and your brain is literally twisted like a pretzel. It's
yeah,
these long ones. And this exam in particular has a lot
yeah,
of questions that are long, you know,
really long.
really long. And then like the answers are long. There's a lot of reading that goes into it. So I think this is I think this is a topic that's pretty, important. And I think it's something that, if you can learn how to handle it and you can learn how to navigate it, I think it's very helpful to have this tool in your arsenal before you take the exam.
I agree. I think that when I write that type of question, I'm basically trying to test fatigue.
Yeah, exactly. That's all it is. It's not all it is,
It's not all it is,
but
but
that's a big part of it.
I want to test when I write long questions like that in either my for my one-on-one students or my group classes, I'm essentially testing. I call this the stress test part of the preparation.
You're testing their fatigue and their focus.
And then exactly, it's like, can you stay focused through a paragraph of a question? Because, I will tell you, 7 out of 10 times the question is actually quite simple.
Right.
But I want to see if you can filter through or you get lost in the trees.
Hmm.
And, for CFP students that come out and didn't pass, I want to say like most people go in who are coming out, and I every CFP student that I work with, they typically give me a call on exam day, after the exam, and they say, "You tell me how they did," or obviously give me the result. And for everybody that doesn't pass, they literally go, "Man, I was so tired by the end," or
Hmm.
"The questions were so long, Joe. Holy crap! Just to get to the question, I didn't know." Like I felt like I was reading the question for 5 minutes.
And I remember coming out of the first time I took the exam, and I remember my head was absolutely pounding, and my brain was spinning. I was exhausted, and a lot of it had to do with the fact that there's questions in there that are a paragraph or two paragraphs long, and it's not just like a lot of words. It's a lot of complicated words, as you know, estate planning, tax planning. It's not easy stuff.
Mm,
And I remember the second time I took the exam, I wear contacts. So like when I'm at work during the day, I wear blue light glasses in order to just keep my eyes fresh and my head
yeah.
good and everything. And I remember the first time I took it, I didn't. The second time I took the exam, I remember I specifically wore my glasses into the exam in order to prepare myself for those long questions and reading so I can keep
Mm.
myself mentally and physically fatigued for those types of questions.
Yeah, you know, it's kind of the line in the sand for the CFP board is like, can you make it through those tough, complicated types of questions? But we're not going to really make the question that complicated.
Yeah, sometimes they are, but there's times where like it's this huge thing and it is very easy.
Yeah, and for
You
me,
just have to,
yeah.
yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
I
cut
was saying I was just saying you just have to get to the end.
Yes, you gotta get to
Okay.
the end and you gotta start pulling out the relevant details. And
Yeah,
I
you have to.
think that everybody gets lost in test taking there, where, and every program has a version of like, this is how you approach this type of question. You start at the beginning, or you start in the middle, or you start at the end, and then you start cross. And I'm like, I'm not a big believer in that. Like, go down and read the question and then pull out the relevant stuff that you need.
Yeah. You
And
mean read the question at the end?
correct. Read the
Yeah, they
question. You get a big
yeah,
paragraph like that. Go and read the question at the end,
yeah, yep,
and then start pulling out the relevant and go through slowly. And I kind of almost, when I'm reading those, I go one sentence at a time
yeah.
where I'm
Mhm.
covering it up and going, okay, got it. Okay, got it. And I read it once through just to kind of get my lay of the land. And then I go back and I start pulling out the relevant information.
Yeah, and I'm happy you brought up one of the points because this is something that you specifically told me as we were going through prepping for the exam, and it was something little like you probably don't even remember even saying it, although obviously you it's part of your practice if you because you just mentioned it. But I just remember you saying, listen, for these long questions, go down, see what they're asking you. Look at the last sentence or the last two sentences and see, all right, what are they asking? This way, when you're reading the question and you're reading each sentence and you're gathering information, you know what information is going to be relevant, what information you're going to need to potentially answer the question, and what you could possibly say, all right, I don't need that, so that won't take up any brain power.
Right.
And that was so helpful and such a great piece of advice that I took with me, obviously through the end of the exam, but
Mm.
I still think about it to this day. I'm like, that was such a good small piece of advice, but it went such a long way in how to answer these long questions.
Yeah,
It was
and
super
and
helpful.
yeah, it's good because basically what those questions are like a vignette. That's what like CFA would call a vignette. And when I was taking CFA, I remember trying to read the whole thing, and when you're reading it, it just like it ends up just being like a big blob of information in your brain. But then when I read the question, it kind of would focus me up. So if I know what they're asking, then I can start to look through the information and go, okay, this is what they're looking for. And especially on ones that ask you to basically aggregate a whole bunch of stuff, like a
Mhm.
whole bunch of things together, you're able to pull the relevant details. And the problem is like if you're looking for superfluous details, you're going to start to second guess everything as a test taker. I'm looking for the stuff that I need to strike out. Don't look for the stuff that you need. And if that's everything, great. And if it's 2 points, great. And if it's 3 points, great. But if you're starting to look for the things you don't need, it's like answering the question by what I think is wrong. You're constantly negotiating against yourself for what's important and not.
Yeah.
And it's a very subtle shift on how to answer the question. But once you get in the habit of doing it, it's incredibly powerful because you're now focusing on what I need and not focusing on, okay, I got to cross this out. I got to cross this out. It's like, again, and what this is like taking multiple choice by trying to cross everything out. Are there questions that you should be doing that way? Absolutely. You just can't do 170 that way.
Yeah. And just before we wrap up, um, read the last part. Oh my God, what I just completely missed. I just completely went brain dead and forgot what I was about to say. Um,
It's
oh my
great.
God.
That's great.
I may need to bring it up on the next
Bring out the
episode.
value to the listeners,
Uh,
baby.
all right, yeah, I completely forgot. That's on me. What a brain dead moment.
It's
I was
okay.
so
It
excited
happens. It happens.
I,
It happens. It's all
I
right.
was excited to say it too. Um, but oh, here's what I was gonna say. Okay,
Okay. There it is.
okay. So we're telling you, we kind of gave you a little blueprint on how to answer those questions and how to make it easier. Practice that. Don't do that on exam day for the first time. Like
Yeah.
go through and learn how to answer these long questions when you're doing mock exams, because then you'll get used to doing it that way, and it'll be like second nature.
Oh, I agree. I
And
couldn't
it'll be
agree
like
more.
and it'll be not easy, but it will make it easier on exam day because you're like, okay, now I know how to answer this long question, or at least how to comprehend it and
Yeah.
figure it out.
Especially on the case study.
100%.
Especially
Exactly.
on the case study. So, as always, everybody, we hope this information was helpful. Feel free to reach out to myself or David with any questions or concerns. See you guys soon.